Everybody give another round of applause for Sigu.
Thank you so much. Who else uses, oh, I'm not supposed to walk past this. Who else uses a photo of themselves 10 years ago? Every time you ask for a photo. Yeah, we always use a photo of ourselves, which we took like 10 years before. So that's me about 10, 12 years ago. Sigu Magwa. I'm a software trainer and a software developer. I do have different faces, just like almost all of us do. We are different people in the house, we are different people in the streets, and we are different people when you're having a party, probably. So that's my face online. So a little story about this. It's a gift that was given to a friend of mine. It's in his backyard. It was, I think it was flown in from the Czech Republic. It has a stone. So I wish I included the whole figure in here, but it now represents me online. I come from the Bay Area. This is where I live. Sorry, that's the wrong image. I come from the Bay Area. I've lived there for a couple of years. You know I'm kidding, right? Yeah. So I come from Kisumu, Kenya. You know I'm kidding still, right? So I come from Kisumu. These are better images. So you saw what I did? Yeah. I come from Kisumu, Kenya. That's a beautiful photo. I asked a friend of mine to take a quick photo from I think it was a 10th floor of their building. So that's the building right here. You can see the beautiful lake, the biggest freshwater lake in Africa. It's called Lake Victoria. It's right here. Some nice views, the mountains and all that. So you can see there I've written Karibu Kisumu. That means welcome to Kisumu. Coming here was a long journey. So I know a lot of you have pretended you know where Kenya or Kisumu is, so I'll help you out. It's this red dot over here, then we are on the other dot over there. Maps will lie to you. I don't know what scale I took a screenshot of this, but my journey to this place was from Kisumu to Nairobi. That's 30 minutes. Nairobi to Dubai, 5 hours. A layover of another 5 hours. Then Dubai to Chicago was about 14 hours. A layover another 5 hours. Then 1 hour to get here. I got here at around midnight, and thank you, Bruce, for picking me up from the airport and hosting me for the time that I was here. This story is actually related to what I'm going to talk about. And who here wants to learn more about observability in Elixir applications? And that's what I'm here to talk about, by a show of hands. Okay, trust me, you're going to be disappointed. I am going to talk about Kenya Airways. As you can see, it's a plane that belongs to the Kenyan government. It's a commercial plane it's a loss-making commercial airplane that belongs to the government. It keeps being bailed out all the time, like all the governments do to a lot of the businesses that they have interest in. So let's go to the 4th of May 2007. There's a story about Kenya Airways, 4th of May 2007. There was a flight that was coming from Douala in Ivory Coast, going to, Abidjan in Ivory Coast, going to Douala in Cameroon. Then from there, it's going to Nairobi, Kenya. So at about, it had to take a short stop to refuel, then go from Cameroon to Kenya. The pilot of the plane was a 52-year-old with around 16 years of experience. And the first officer was 23-year-old, relatively young pilot. So the plane took off from Abidjan towards Douala, and there were a little bit of storm on the way, but the plane was a relatively new plane. It was about 6 months after it was the Kenyan government had bought the plane. So there were a few issues with the autopilot, but that had been fixed and everything was okay. So it landed safely in Douala, picked up a few people on the way. Then it was supposed to be heading over to Nairobi, Kenya. You still with me? Observability? Hopefully we are going to get it. So it took off from Douala, and on this other side you can see there's something we call the weather radar, where you're able to see how the clouds are, whatever is happening, and you are also able to plan your route from the weather radar. So while you're talking of, the pilot was talking to the control tower. They asked for clearance, it was given unto them. He checked on here, planned their route, and they were now ready to leave, and they left. So they switched on the weather radar, and they took off after the clearance was given to them. Of course, when you take off, you go to around 1,000 feet high, and the pilot decided to turn on the autopilot and started planning the route. But later on, they realized that the plane was somehow banking to the right. Let me show you where I got all this information. So, do I need to quit this? Go to the browser. Jesus. Where's the browser? Yep, there you go. Are you able to see? Should I zoom in? Zoom? Good? Yep. So at around 006, that's around midnight, the landing gear was retracted. 24 seconds later, they were at about 1,000 feet, climbing high. Then the captain of the plane actually said, select checked, and here are a few details of exactly where they were, the altitude, where they were, the pitch, the speed at that particular point. 1 second later, there was a knob that was touched. After the knob, the captain said, I will keep it somewhere here. So that might have meant that they are actually navigating through the heavy thunderstorm at that particular point. You are all able to see more data about the plane. Then I'll quickly go through here. The captain calls OK command. OK command means that it's now in autopilot. Then the FO, who is the first officer, does not respond when he says that. In the aviation field, the captain needs to say that, then the first officer confirms that that is exactly what has been done. So in this case, the first officer never responded. Then quickly going through this, the captain exclaims about 7 minutes after takeoff. The FDR indicates the following at that particular point. The bank angle warning alarm starts to sound. There's a bank, you're dangerously banking the plane. At this point, a few seconds later, I'll rush through this. There were injuries to the person, so the plane crashed. This was in 2007. Fatal injuries around 100 and actually 114 people died. It was a very sober moment for Kenyans and those who were on the flight. May they rest in peace. I've lost my mouse cursor. Oh, it's there. Come over here. May they rest in peace. So this is the leftover of the airplane. the KQ that I was talking about. Now, this is not the only story of airplanes and accidents that happen. In 2022, there were about 22 accidents of aeroplanes, but 22 million flights went around the world. This is a pretty good statistic. 22 million flights, only 22 accidents throughout the year. And the plane that I just showed you right here, it's totally gone. It's totally, there's nothing you can recover from it. But somehow we have all the details of what happened. How do we know what happened, really? So how do we have all this information? It happened in 2007. The report came out, I think, 1 year or a few years ago. So years later, we are able to have a report and know exactly what happened. So how are we able to know all this? It's pretty easy. Send it to the cloud. That's supposed to be a joke. It's a plane on the cloud, just send it to the cloud. Yeah, so it's pretty easy, just send it to the cloud every 10 seconds. Not really. I really needed to say this joke, so I put it in here. If you have a plane, then you call head on it, what do you get back? A tadpole? Yeah? If you have a plane, you call ahead on it, you get the passengers, right? It might make sense on the next slide. What happens if you call a tail on it? You get the tail. Get it? Awesome. So the tail is a very important thing in this particular talk because it contains what the media usually call a black box. Okay? So we are starting to connect all these. The tail contains what we call a black box, which is actually an orange box. So the black box is an orange box. This is how it looks like, and it's usually located at the tail of the plane. So it records everything that happens on the plane. There are two things that make up the black box. We have the cockpit voice recorder, and we have the flight data recorder. The voice recorder records everything everything happening within the cockpit, including whatever is said through the microphone. That is how we would know that the pilot was speaking to the control tower. That's how we know that they were having a conversation amongst themselves when the flight was ongoing. Now, different airlines have different ways of doing this, and this is usually around 2 hours of recording because it's 2 hours of recording of what was happening. But some airlines allow you, or some aeroplanes allow you to erase everything. Once you've landed, you can just erase everything when you're on ground. The second one is the flight data recorder. Everything is called the black box, so it gives us the position and the instrument. So if you remember the reports that we were going through, we had all the information about what was happening. And the information in the data recorder is what we normally use, or what is normally used to replay the accident, how it happened, and to try and find out exactly what caused the accident. Black box, very few of them are never recovered, however hard the accident is. So recorders are usually at the tail because least of the impact whenever there's a crash happens at the tail. Almost all of it is usually at the fuselage. It's usually surrounded by materials to protect it against like the highest temperatures of fires. So fire rarely destroys it. And if it does, there are usually different ways of restoring the data from there. So you open it up, take out the chip, then there are chip readers that can read the chip and give you the data that you might need. In case the plane goes in under the water, there's a beacon that can send signal every 30 days. You remember the Malaysian airline that was never found? So whenever a plane goes down below the water, and it's more than 30 days, the hopes of getting the plane just starts to die off. it's because the beacon power is already running out and they might not be able to locate it. It can send data for as deep as around 14,000 feet under the water. The black box can about 3.5 times the weight of impact, so it's you can rarely destroy it. Oh, this is a big question. So from the story that you've heard, from what's happening, do you think we can ever get, in the software that we build, do you think we can ever get to the aviation industry standard? 22 million applications running, but only 22 fail, and we know exactly what happened. So from the KQ story, actually a lot or all the pilots had to be retrained on how to do particular things, and airlines are getting safer each and every year. So think about this. I'll leave you with this particular question to think about it, and I'm trying to read my notes over here. Here are a few tools that you can use for observability. So they're just random and famous tools that you can use. They might mean big things. You might leave some of them to ops. You might need to use a few of them. I'm sorry if I disappointed you if you thought that I will go through each and every one of them. The main point that I wanted to let you know about observability is it's an important factor that helps your applications stay up. It's observability that allowed the pilot to know what weather is they are in and how they can maneuver. It is observability that allowed us to know what happened after the accident. So if you plan and have your application such that you can know what's going on when it's running, you can know what's going on when it's crashed or dead, then we might achieve 22 million applications with only 22 of them crashing in that case. Yeah. This is a photo of a session that we had. Thank you, Bruce, for organizing this. We had a session with Joseph Alim, and this is a group of Kenyans. Not all of them are Kenyans, but yeah. Elixir Kenya, we have a conference this year. And next week we are having Elixir Conf Africa 2023. It's going to be virtual. So I had a talk by Kimberly yesterday. Thank you so much, Kim, for the amazing talk. But you can observe from this that a lot of the videos are off. It's not by design. It's by situation. So there are a couple of people over here. Their videos are off. It's probably because they don't have enough data. It's probably because of one reason or another. I am on this particular conference speaking because I wanted to and because I was able to. Thank you also, Bruce, for bringing me here. You are here because you wanted to and you're able to. Some people chose not to come. Some people were not able to come completely. It's not because they chose not to come. Some of our members really wanted to come for this, but they could not because they are denied passports and visas every now and then. What if next year, because they can't get out of their country, what if next year you come to their country because they need this? They need Kimberly's story. They need to hear your story. They need your experience. They need you to interact with them. That's all they need. They can't get out, but you can get in. So we are thinking about having Elixir Conference 2024 to be a physical event. And we are thinking about having it as an Elixir Conference safari. So we augment the experience. You have the technical thing, you receive it, and you also have an experience that you hopefully will never forget in a good way. So these are a photo of a giraffe center. It's in Nairobi, so you can probably just visit it. It's just a few kilometers in Nairobi. You can have breakfast right here. You can sleep somewhere around there. Thank you very much for listening to my talk on observability.